It's 5:30 PM on February 4th, 2026. Welcome to the Municipal Building Commission meeting. Everyone is here except for Gail Clark, so we have a quorum. Mason Lord, the Director of Budget and Administration, is with us remotely. Hi, Mason.
Hey, Jack, how we doing?
Good. So the first thing we're going to do is approve the minutes of January 7th, which were emailed to you. Is there a motion?
Moved. Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, Mason, do we have anyone live on the library, or should we just go right to water?
Let's go ahead and go to water. I'm not sure if Angela's going to make it or not. If not, I can discuss kind of where we are with closeout.
Sure thing. Okay, water. Who's going to speak to us?
So why don't we just start off with just kind of an update with the temporary and where that's at.
Go right ahead.
So good news is that has been online since December 29th. We were able to work through the manganese issues. We had a few things that we had to deal with DEP. We had a couple of studies. We're doing a demonstration study, so part of that is we had to take samples prior to the startup, 7 days after startup, 21 days after startup, and then every 2 months. So the samples that we've taken thus far have proven that PFAS is a non-detect.
Non-detect?
Non-detect.
Not just below levels.
It's non-detect.
Well, then we
Sweet.
must have done something right in designing the plant.
Yep. So, and we're gonna continue to monitor it. We've got more testing to do, but, that's the good news. The samples before we turned it online was it 9 parts per trillion? So,
It was between eight and 9.
yeah. So it's definitely doing its job. We've got a little bit of filter. The pre-filters are kind of plugging up quicker than we thought originally, but they're right in line with where they should be. So we're working through that. Things are going well out there.
Good news. Any questions from the commission?
How long does the filter media last on that, for that?
I might leave that to Matt. The problem with PFAS, because there's not a long study on it, there's not a lot of history of it, we're kind of just monitoring it to see how long it's going to last. I don't think we have a solid answer. Is that safe to say, Matt?
Yeah, based on the pilot study, we're looking at about 12 to 18 months. But that also depends upon PFAS concentrations. It depends upon what we kind of don't know is how much manganese and organics are kind of getting through, getting stuck in those filters. But we do have the automated filters first at 20 micron, the bag filters at 5 micron. So we are filtering a lot out ahead of those PFAS filters. But so far so good. We're just going to continue to monitor it and take our samples as we should. And again, looking at 12 to 18 months. Honestly, we're looking at hopefully to have to transfer those vessels over to the permanent plant before we have to replace any media. That's sort of what we would anticipate at this time, but time will tell as we get more data on these vessels as they continue to run.
When you replace it, does it have to be disposed of as hazardous waste?
This particular media, yes, it should have some sort of a waste classification. I don't necessarily know what ranking of hazardous waste it would be, but it does have PFAS in it. Whereas carbon, you can regenerate it to a point. So I don't necessarily have a perfect answer for you on that, but yes, it would have to be disposed of differently than just, typical waste.
How much are we talking here? A dump truck load, a pickup truck load, wheelbarrow?
I forget off the top of my head. I want to say it was probably somewhere around 500 to 700 cubic feet of media. So probably a substantial
Dump truck load.
30-yard roll-off container, maybe slightly more than one dumpster, maybe a dumpster and a half.
How much time and how much money does it take to switch that over?
That I don't have for you right at the moment, but it would technically, as far as the dollar value, I don't have, but technically you would just be using a back truck. You would back out the media from the vessels. The back truck would then essentially either dispose of that into a container or bring it to a site where it can dispose of it properly. It would be numerous back trucks, and then you would basically refill the vessel with new media.
So is this something you can do in a day?
The process would probably take a few days because you have to put in a layer of gravel, you have to chlorinate it, drain it, and then fill the vessel with water, and then put your full reservoir media back in. So it's a bit of a process, but
And you probably have to do it in stages because the plant has to keep operating, right?
This particular plant, the temporary plant, would probably be a full shutdown. But the permanent plant, we would be able to continue to operate because we have redundancy.
Any other questions? So PFAS will be a gift that keeps on giving.
The forever chemical.
That's why I was asking about how to dispose of it, because if you put it in a landfill somewhere, it leaches into
Leaches
the
back in the ground,
groundwater.
yep.
We're just going in a circle, right?
And that's what we might be seeing from the landfill in Plainville. Over at Miramichi, I know that was an issue, that landfill was leaching into Lake Miramichi.
Yeah. Okay, shall we move on to the permanent?
Sure. That's all you, Matt.
So we have been moving along with lots of paperwork. We've had submittals coming in from the contractor, mainly on HVAC equipment, electrical equipment. Just a lot of front-loaded heavy paperwork. We haven't started any physical construction yet. We don't anticipate any groundbreaking until at least late February, early March. I don't have an updated schedule since pretty much the beginning of January, as we're still waiting on some more information from the general contractor. And I think a lot of it hinges on the weather. With the cold weather and snow, we've just been locked in that it looks like we may be pushing that late February, early March clearing, grubbing of the site of any trees, probably a little further out, which is what was discussed at the pre-construction meeting. You know, if this was a nice sort of moderate winter, we probably would have gotten going a little bit sooner, but we really don't see that happening anytime soon. So I would fully expect at the next meeting to have really a nailed down actual mobilization start date for the contractor when they're actually going to start doing some clearing and grubbing out there, some actual site activity. Until then, we're just going through equipment submittals, some RFIs that have come through. Again, just heavy on the paperwork, going through the BABA requirements for some of the equipment, getting that paperwork essentially nailed down with DEP so that we can document all the equipment that has BABA requirements, and making sure that all that paperwork is acceptable to DEP, because we have hundreds of pieces of equipment that require BABA certification. So we're making sure that DEP is okay with our first few pieces of equipment and the BABA documentation that we have before we start moving forward and accepting more of this documentation. So it's a lot of paper pushing, and right now there's not really much that you're going to see until we actually start doing construction out in the field. It's a lot of behind the scenes work between Tanner Howard, Wright Pierce, Daniel O'Connell. So it's busy. There's a lot going on, but we're just kind of waiting for this weather to break, and we really just want to get out there and start doing some construction. But we'll get there. There's a lot of equipment still to be submitted. Some of that equipment has long lead times, transformers, stuff like that will have months and months of lead time. So we're hoping to get that equipment within the next few weeks, get all that stuff ordered, because then that clock starts to tick, and we can really start looking down the line to when all these things line up.
So one of the things, just to kind of add on to the construction part of it, we've had an exceptionally cold winter. Right now, we're looking at a little over 2 feet of frost in the ground. And it's gonna push us out a little bit, I think.
Yeah, well, at least we missed the 11 inches of snow last Sunday.
Believe it or not, actually, snow's not bad because it's an insulator.
Is there someone from Wright Pierce here? Ah,
Hi,
come on up.
how are you? I'm Megan, Megan Condon from Wright Pierce. Also Tara's on virtually from Wright Pierce as well.
Okay. Do you have anything to add?
No, Matt pretty much covered it. I wrote down just, kind of what we've been going through. Tata and Howard's been getting the submittals, but as he said, going through the BABA process is a little bit new to some of the manufacturers, so really making sure that, they're complying with everything on there it's a pretty arduous process, and I know it takes some time, so they've been, on top of that. Like he said, we're just waiting for a schedule update, and then we're gonna start scheduling monthly progress meetings, which will hopefully push things along a little bit better, and we're monitoring everything and keeping in contact with Tata and Howard and Dennis as well.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Questions from the commission? Mason, anything you want to add at this point?
Sorry, I was muted. No, just in terms of billing, so we are seeing the first passive invoices coming in from Wright Pierce and Tata and Howard on this project. So on the invoices, you'll see 2. That's for Tata and Howard, so that's for their November services and December services, and then for Wright Pierce, it's through December. So the intent with this being such a large-scale project, we'll look to kind of include these as packages. So just to get kind of Wright Pierce and Tata and Howard on the same timeline, we're putting these forward at the same time. But we'll look to sort of do monthly invoicing, especially as we progress through construction. But Matt and Megan or Tara might be able to comment. I think it's going to be a little while before we see any sort of construction invoicing, just because mobilization, as Matt said, is not going to be for a little while. But they might have a better idea on when mobilization should start, as well as kind of we'll start to see some of that billing for materials stored on site. I don't know if anyone has a comment there.
So I do have a draft pay app that came in early this week from DOC. I have not had time to look at it yet. They're mainly bonds and insurance at this time, which is totally acceptable at this point. That would be for work through January. So I would expect within the next week or so that we'll have that packaged up. And I would expect we'll also have a Tata and Howard invoice and probably a Wright Pierce invoice also for work in January. So we'll have, Tata and Howard, Wright Pierce, DOC, January invoices like packaged up and kind of sent to you as a single. I guess we really wouldn't be single because Tata and Howard and Wright Pierce are not part of SRF, but they'll still be like part of like the next NBC meeting. So the next NBC meeting would be everything for January, and then the month after that would be everything for February, and kind of so on and so forth. So we'll be seeing those monthly submittals. I was kind of hoping DOC would sort of be ahead of the game on this pay app that I just got from them to get in it on this meeting. But they kind of missed that window. So because I haven't looked at it, this may actually go back to December for them, but whatever it is, if for some reason pay out to January, we'll make sure that we start hitting those, basically those intervals, so that as we go through each NBC meeting, that it's for those particular services through X date, and everything just kind of line up.
Okay.
Yeah, and there is a little bit more, because this is, especially the construction component is through SRF, right? There's some more complicated administrative overhead just in terms of, doing the drawdowns with SRF. So there's a little bit more work on that. So it's gonna be a little bit slower to start. We spent the last couple of months really like lining up the paperwork, making sure all the, the things are actually like set in stone, just to get kind of the templates ready to move forward. So there's a little bit of back and forth on that to start, but once we kind of get familiar with the process through SRF, things will move a little bit quicker. And so we'll be able to kind of move things along faster when we get to construction, but it is a little bit more complicated for this project.
Okay, just for the record, our next meeting is March 4th. So just keep that in mind. Mason, we've got some bills on the agenda. We have a bill for Wading River from Wright Pierce for $4613.39. We have a bill from Tata and Howard for Wading River for $18,452.97. Another one for $22,030.67. And then we have two emergency PFAS bills from Tata and Howard, 7156.09 and $233.45. Are all of those in order to pay?
They are in order to pay. I think there was a little bit of confusion on the 233.45 is not 233.45, so you see on your agenda that was corrected. So that was a component of the invoice. The actual subtotal for that invoice was $15,544.83. So that invoice, this is for Tata and Howard, it included some of the resident project representation and construction administration. The 233.45, which was notated individually, is just the reimbursables. So that's just a small piece for mileage. So I think there was just a mistake on the agenda there that we had corrected. So that amount is 15, which is right below. It's the 15,544.83.
I see that. I see that now on what you left for us, because I was going by what I printed out a couple days ago. So, not a problem.
Yep, and then just to give an update. So with Wright Pierce, that brings them to 1% build. The contract is just north of $450,000 for this significant project, and then for Tata and Howard on the permanent facility, they're just billing for construction administration at this point. These two invoices combined brings it to about 2.5% on the total for construction administration. So we're very early stages.
And Dennis, you believe the bills are in order as well,
Yes, they are.
and you endorse them as well. Good. Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. That takes care of all the bills except for the library, right, Mason?
Correct.
Okay. Yep.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Do you want me to kick over to that, or do you want to?
Well, I just want to ask whether there's anything else or whether we can let these good people go home.
That's all I've got.
Okay, then we'll see you next month.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, Mason.
All right.
I got an email from Amy this afternoon saying there was a little function at the library at 6:30 on February 27th. Were you aware of that?
So what was that? Sorry, you cut out there for a second.
There's a function on February 27th at 6:30 at the library, sort of a grand unveiling, I think, to the public of all the flooring work that was done. And Amy said that the mayor was speaking and a couple others, and I told her that I may or may not be there depending on whether my wife and I go away for an overnight, but were you aware of that?
I am aware of that, and if MVC members want to attend, I think that would be a nice show of support.
Yeah, and give them a chance, if they haven't, to go through and see the flooring, because when I was in there a couple weeks ago, I thought it was pretty spectacular. And I know Amy is very pleased. So what else? I know we have some supplemental bills. I know that we got the substantial completion certificate, so talk.
Yeah, so there was a couple bills. We've been going back and forth with LLB for the last couple of weeks, trying to get the final invoices in for Capital Carpet. Unfortunately, those did only come in today, so they did not make it onto the agenda. So just a discussion point if we're willing to enter those into the record, as well as the final invoice for LLB. We did have the invoice for Meyer. which you'll see on the agenda. That is for the $95,166. That is in order to pay. That has been approved by all parties. And then we do have the invoice from Capital Carpet, which is the retainage reduction, as the punch list has been complete and we have final completion. So that is in order to pay. That is also certified by LLB, the architect of record. That total amount, which again was not in the packet, so I apologize for the delay. We only got it late this afternoon. That total amount is $16,718.25. So that was the final 5% pullback. We got the full closeout package, all the warranty information, as well as the owner maintenance information, because we have a number of different flooring types that are some of them are relatively new for the city. So there's a lot of information for the library and the custodial staff to have to maintain those new finishes, so we can enjoy them hopefully for the next 30 years. So they're totally in order to pay. We're excited and ready to close this out and release the last 5% retainage.
And then the LLB bill, is it 9572, or is it just?
The LLB is $1,400, so this is for 100% closeout for LLB.
Okay.
So their previous invoices totaled $74,133.10. And this final invoice is just for the closeout portion of their contract, which was only $1,400 in the upfront contract. So between design phase, bidding and negotiation, construction administration, and closeout, they're 100% billed out for the total amount of $45,165. We do have some project savings from LLB. Ultimately, we only used 11% of the budgeted amount for indoor air quality for the scope of that, and we used 92% of the hazmat reporting and estimation. So there was ultimately a savings there of $11,658.57. So overall in the contract, this $1,400 will bring us out to a total billing of $75,533.10 with a project savings of $11,658.57 from the design contract.
Good. Any questions of Mason?
Mason, with the closeout documents and finishing up, was there any attic stock that was part of the contract to be turned over that you're aware of?
I do believe there was some attic stock. I don't have the final counts on those, so I can certainly get those for next meeting. That was one of the items we discussed on an internal meeting. I don't remember what the final amount was, but I do believe there was attic stock that was part of the materials, stored and delivered on site. So I can get a count on that.
No, my question was just if there was, that the library or the city has received it.
So the short answer is yes.
Okay.
Correct?
Yeah, I can get confirmation on that. One of the benefits of the attic stock is more specifically for the carpet tiling. One of the benefits of that is that if they have a stain or an issue in one tile, they can cut it and replace it, or just lift it and replace. So that's one of the benefits of the carpet tile. Some of the other more resilient epoxy floors, there's not necessarily sort of an attic stock associated with that.
Okay.
Thanks, Mason.
Any other questions? So I think we should be in a position to approve the bill for capital for $16,718.25 and the bill for LLB for $1,400. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Let me add one more.
Yep.
Meyer for the moving services for $95,166.
Yep. So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All right. They all pass, so are we finished?
We should be finished. Just to give the MBC a quick update, I know it's not necessarily on the agenda, but we have kicked off the high school closeout. So just wanted to give everyone an update that we're working with Skanska on moving to MSBA closeout. So our final pro-pay submission and all the associated documents is going to the MSBA, and then from there we'll kind of kick into their audit process. We're hearing some positive news that they've streamlined some of the components of their audit, so hopefully it won't take as long as some of the ones that were in the pipeline in the last few years, but it's still a very long and tedious process, so we don't have a good prediction yet, but we have all the documents ready to submit that they've requested from us, at least at this point.
Excellent. Will there be any need for another SBC meeting at some point to vote on anything, or are we done?
I think the audit will help tease some of that out. We had voted for the final requisitions, pending the certification and startup of the PV array. So once that had happened, we were able to make those final payments, which we just did recently. So that was already taken care of through the SBC. I do think at the end of the MSBA audit process, there will be some action from the SBC, but as I said, that it could be a year or 2 years from now. I'm not really sure what the timeline is. So we'll probably use the MBC as the vehicle to make people aware of that, as it is, SBC, and if you're on the MBC, you're on the SBC. There may be things that come up in the audit process that may require action by the SBC. I think we're just unsure about that at this time.
Okay, excellent. And the PV array is up and working?
It is up, operational, and doing everything as it should be doing.
That was a long time coming.
It was a long time coming. Yeah, that was as you go through a almost 10-year project, and the legal the regulations changed throughout the project. So the original design didn't meet the regulations that were implemented later. So things happen, and it gets complicated. So.
But it ended well.
It did end well. It just took longer than we would have liked. That is for sure.
Okay. So then, should we adjourn at 5:57?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.